The Diversity in Design course focuses on the changing nature of our society and examines the rich diversity of cultural experiences and their attendant design issues. Specifically, we concentrate on ways in which our physical and media environments affect various populations, and in turn, the ways that these populations have affected our environments. In this course, we look at 8 important areas of experience and culture: race, ethnicity, gender, class, age, physical ability, cognitive ability, and religion. We closely examine writings, films, products, graphics, electronic media, buildings, and environments by and about diverse individuals and groups. In addition, through lectures, discussions, debates, and projects, our physical and media environments are analyzed in terms of the following: equity, flexibility, simplicity, perception, safety, effort, and context. In other words, universal design. This course takes on what I think is perhaps the single most important aspect of universal design, namely its consideration of the notion of difference and the other as essential to the study and practice of design. The other, in quotes, extends us beyond ourselves into that which we do not know. Attempting to understand the other is something we all do. It is one of our primary asymptotic activities. This drive to see or understand our differences is a subject in many disciplines, particularly philosophy and psychology. Heidegger proposed that the very idea of communication itself, the exchange of words and signs, presupposes a desire to hear or understand the other, and that this notion is a fundamental aspect of being human. The encyclopedist Denis Diderot, in his Letter on the Blind for the Use of Those Who See, introduces us to the idea of the other by taking us on an unusual journey of the visual from the rare perspective of the tactile. Sight, Diderot's blind man concludes, quote, is a kind of touch which extends to distant objects and is not applied to our face. Touch gives an idea only of relief, unquote. Within this relief environment, the blind man experiences sight as a kind of a figure-ground relationship. It is bound in the notion of difference. If the points of the figure are the same height or texture as the ground, they are lost and the figure disappears. This way of presenting the other is a set of comparisons that attempt to move beyond both parties, the blind man and the sighted man, beyond themselves and into a space of greater understanding. The psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan introduced the idea of the other through his mirror stage. He argued that the basic nature of difference emerges at that moment when we recognize our reflection in a mirror for the very first time. This experience typically occurs between the ages of 6 and 18 months, a period of time in which the child is coming to grips with an array of motor skills that are as of yet uncoordinated and a source for some trepidation. As a sign of the overcoming of the fragmented body and the promise of a unified body yet to be realized, therefore, the experience of the other in the mirror is attended by the anticipation of unity. Certainly, in our contemporary media, there are many examples of the desire to seek difference and to know the other. It is one of the basic themes of many books, films, and television series. Avatar, Star Trek, The Beauty and the Beast, Edward Scissorhands, Gulliver's Travels, The Merchant of Venice, To Kill a Mockingbird, the list goes on and on. Despite its popularity in mainstream media, seeking to understand others' viewpoints typically is not a part of mainstream design education. Most instructors agree that to produce relevant design work, particularly as we move into a more globalized environment, students should have knowledge and understanding about cultures other than their own. Yet, At this point, most programs do not give priority to this area. University at Buffalo students are required to take a course in pluralism as a part of their general education curriculum. UB adopts the claim of Carol Geary Schneider, president of the Association of American Colleges and Universities. She says, and I quote, "Diversity requirements signal the Academy's conviction that citizens now need to acquire significant knowledge both of cultures other than their own and of disparate cultures' struggles for recognition and equity in order to be adequately prepared for the world around them," unquote. The Diversity in Design course has several objectives: to introduce various design disciplines and their histories, to raise awareness of the impact of design decisions on diverse populations, to raise awareness of the specific desires and needs of various populations, to study instances in which underrepresented populations have impacted design changes, to build a vocabulary that demonstrates an understanding of diversity in relation to design methods, to critically examine current design education and practice, to analyze specific aspects of physical and visual environments, keeping in mind the needs of diverse groups, to use the course topics to develop critical thinking skills, and to develop proposals for universally designed physical and visual environments. The course has several activities and assignments that help us to extend our understanding of the relationship between design and diversity. For example, we look at several advertisements and take positions on whether or not they promote positive notions of diversity. We compare products, one designed for a continually broadening population and one for a niche population. We analyze architecture from the points of view of those with sensory or mobility challenges. And we interview people from non-dominant cultures about their environments and develop a design proposal based on the interviews. As designers, these projects can move us out of our typical processes in which we focus on the consequences that fit into our own agenda. They might assist us in thinking about other outcomes, some which might have significant impact. Certainly, as critical makers of the built environment, we need to examine the possible consequences of our design agendas and the conditions that they foster. How do they impact the other? And who is included in our definition of the other? Although we might not always consider it, our actions as socially conscious designers pose many questions and offer many possibilities. Already they challenge our conventional concepts of space and open choices for some that change choices for others. They erase traditional boundaries of movement and replace them with oscillating boundaries of information access. They confront current notions of citizen and community by setting up situations in which more diverse populations can participate in the decision-making processes. They recondition criticism by influencing questions about how institutional values are questioned or maintained. They ask what is found and what is lost, who wins and who loses as modes increase, and they open inquiry into notions about habits and changes in our perceptions, senses, and states of being. Most importantly, examining the consequences of design provokes questions about how to participate and learn in ever-changing multi-conditions. The Diversity in Design course starts that process and helps us to open ourselves to the possibilities suggested in the following augmented statement by Paul Ricoeur in his text, Oneself as Another. There are other kinds of design, other ways of being or looking, other ways in which the physical world could shape our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. Other sets of values would produce other architectures that recognize the other, even the other that is within ourself. If we imagine the wide array of possible values, we can uncover an equally wide array of possible design approaches and solutions that might manifest and support other ways of thinking and being. Thank you.